Hello everyone, and welcome to the brand new D&H headquarters here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and in our brand new in-house studio. I know this isn't the first of our videos to air from the studio, but it was the first one that I've been into, that I've done. So it's exciting for me. This is my first hello from the new studio. So my name is Matt Allison, Cloud Technical Specialist. I think a number of you out there know me because I have the wonderful opportunity, this being included, to come to you on a quarterly basis to give you updates on what is going on in our world, specifically the world of D&H Cloud. So that's what we're up to. Last time that we spoke, we went into a couple of new vendors, including Axion and ConnectWise, talked about PSA tool integration. This month, this quarter, we are really excited. I have some new features to announce, some actually new rolled out features that you can use today, as well as 3 new vendors that are going to tremendously support you, or their intention is to support you in your infrastructure as a service offering to your customers. So I'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's talk about the features first of all. So I'm really excited because finally I get to announce the official rollout of custom SKUs, custom bundles in the marketplace. What I mean by that is, for those of you who are familiar with the marketplace as it is, and if you're not, we have videos on that. Go back and check previous ones. But each of the services that you were to sell the customer, they appear in a little box and have a short description, etc. That box, that description, and that ability to order them from the marketplace is something that can be created and customized. Specifically, you can actually create a line item exactly the same as the Office 365 that is a specific service specific to you, something that only you can offer. You can also use this new custom bundle or custom service capability to create bundles. In other words, you can bundle that Office 365 subscription along with your service. You can do the same thing and throw in hardware. You can throw in a notebook or something like that and bundle that all together into a single SKU and then again market that using our marketplace. So we're really excited that that feature is out. It is out today. Now keep in mind, the setup for it is a little involved. You're literally creating a whole process, a workflow for that particular SKU. So you need to determine exactly how each and everything is being ordered. In other words, is an email being generated and so on? Is there any direct connection via API? All of those things you can be walked through. So if you are interested in this, absolutely just reach out. Email us at cloudsolutions@dnh.com and we'll get somebody on the line with you and we'll walk you through that whole process. If you are interested in learning more of that just in a video, that's also feedback that we're really interested in. So if that is the case, shoot us an email and let us know that as well, and I'll do something next time where we actually go how you do those steps. But moving on to what the real, I think, crux of what our topic is going to be today, and that is infrastructure as a service. And what D&H is doing in terms of making your deployment of an IaaS solution a lot easier. So first of all, before we get into any of that, what is infrastructure as a service, or IaaS? So the easiest way to look at it is it's the core elements of your network, of your IT environment. So that includes your servers and data, as well as your networking equipment. So basically that core element of your solution, when you look at the big picture, is what IaaS is going to offer. It's going to be a way of offloading that data and those servers' workloads off of those physical machines and into the cloud. Now, if this was a couple of years ago, I would then need to go into several different reasons of the benefits of IaaS, including security and redundancy and what have you. I'm not going to go into all that because we have a lot more information to talk about, but the other reason I'm not going to go into that is because it's 2019, it's almost 2020, and I have personally found that argument, or that conversation needs to happen less. Absolutely, there's still going to be customers out there that are apprehensive in moving their workloads to the cloud, but the reality is where we are today is more customers are moving to the cloud than ever before, and I think from our information gathering, what you're most interested in is how. How do I get my customer up to the cloud? How do I migrate these things? And how do I do it at a budget and fairly easily? So we here at D&H, myself specifically, have been working on those questions for the last, many, many months. And over that time, we've developed some, what I consider to be sort of handy handouts or something like that. In other words, we call them playbooks, and they cover specific subjects that you would be able to find out all the information you want to know about it, including sales techniques, best practices, and then finally, of course, a technical outline on how you actually do the thing. And I'm referring to things like using Azure for your backup and disaster recovery, or like a video we did recently on Windows Virtual Desktop. We have a playbook designed for that, so it gives you, like I said, step-by-step on how you actually do that deployment. That said, even after you get these step-by-step instructions, there is still a level of knowledge that is required, and the configuration is still complex. It's not necessarily complicated, but it's involved, and it can take some work hours in there as well. So we have worked with 3 in particular third-party cloud vendors, and they each bring to the table a very unique and complementary IaaS approach to help to simplify the deployment, management, and configuration of these IaaS solutions. So we're going to talk about each of them today. I'm going to give you a quick overview, and then once we're done with all this, I'm real excited for our live Q&A, where if you have any specific questions where we can get a little more granular, we're going to have some experts on the line, including myself, who can answer those questions. So specifically, those 3 vendors are Nerdio, CloudCheckr, and ReadyNetworks. So let's talk about the first 2 first. Nerdio specifically. Nerdio is a fantastic platform. It's a great application for, first of all, cost estimating. So it has essentially a quoting tool that asks you very real-world questions. Do you want this backed up? Do you want a duplicate to be in a different location, et cetera? Real straightforward sentences and yes and no answers, and it will determine and lay out for you a very straightforward and itemized quote that includes what your Azure pricing would be, what your subscription through Nerdio would be, and then it breaks each and all of that down per seat if we're talking more or less about individual desktops. It does all of this then for you. Once you have actually created the quote and you put in that same configuration in an account, it will actually do all the deployment itself, and a process that it could take you half a workday. This can be done by one single click, and then you let it set for a couple of hours, and then you come back and everything is ready to go, including each device and an additional server in the network is all connected to the domain and so on. It's a pretty simple to use and pretty robust product. All right, and now this before you is the Nerdio admin portal. Some of you might look at this and already think that it is pretty familiar, and that is the case. This is the exact same portal that you would receive if you are an existing Nerdio customer. So the question might be hitting some of you right now. If you are a Nerdio customer, can I attach a D&H Azure subscription to that existing Nerdio subscription? Short answer is yes. Long answer is too long for this video, so please reach out to us and we'll go over exactly how that's done. There's a number of different ways that it can work, but the good news is if you have any new customers that you're just adding a D&H CSP subscription to, you can deploy them right now using your existing Nerdio account. However, you will miss out on the discount that you would receive by purchasing it through D&H. If you want to know what that discount would be, reach out to us and we'll talk to you then. So this is going to be the first screen that you come to, and it's going to present to you in the first screen all of the accounts that you have currently set up. Accounts are customers with existing plans. However, the first thing you're probably going to want to look at is this over here, the NFA cost estimator. I won't go through how it's done and how it works, but this is probably one of their strongest tools that you can use in quoting your customer. Now, first is going to ask you, what's the use case? Is this going to be IaaS, so the core plan that we talked about? Is this going to be desktop as a service or the professional plan? So this is just the VDI solution. Or finally, IT as a service, which is both of those things wrapped together, or the enterprise service. You're going to select your servers. You're going to specify what the instance size is, what size OS disk, and then whether or not it has a data disk. As you can see, file server right now, I can delete it. That is the case since I have the IaaS solution selected. However, if I were to do a DaaS or an IT as a service solution, file server is required. The file server, just so you know, is used to help save the profiles that each of your end users own and possess that contains all of the unique settings that they make to their virtual desktop instances. So this essentially is roaming profiles for those of you out there. Finally, it has this section here to turn on or off certain features. Azure Hybrid Usage Benefit is something I will not talk about now because that is a whole webcast in and of itself. But I'm happy to talk about it. So you can actually get a significant discount on your Azure deployments using both Azure Hybrid Usage Benefit Program as well as this next one here, which is reserved instances. In a nutshell, reserved instances are paying for X amount of years in advance, and Azure Hybrid Usage is if you already have an existing license, this gives you a significant discount on the software leasing that you do when you deploy an Azure VM as well. Follow that up with a couple of straightforward questions. Do you want backup? Where do you want that backup to be? Do you want VPN, etc.? Once you've answered these questions, and you also have the option here to set exactly what margin you are going to offer your customer and what your discount is, etc., you just click on View Costs, and you get this pretty cool looking quote back here that you can print. You can make adjustments to, and you can provide directly to your customer. Once you have quoted, of course, the next step is going to be creating an account for each of your customers, and then having that service do the deployment. And that is done here under Accounts. You just simply add a new NFA account, select the program we just referred to, and then you connect it to those existing subscriptions. So like I said before, if you have a Nerdio account, you can create an account for your customer here, whether it's core, professional, or enterprise, and just connect it to that Azure subscription that you create through D&H. Once that's done, once the actual deployment has completed, then you'll see the account listed here. As you can see, I created a test account just to kind of show you what it looks like. It's inactive, of course, because nobody's actually using it. But I can click right here, Login, and it actually goes to a unique management portal for this particular customer for this particular deployment. From here, I can do additional management functionality. I can add users and groups. I can add additional mailboxes, servers. I can add domains and a VPN tunnel. I can even access the various management portals directly from here, both the Azure portal and the Office Admin Center. And I love this too. For each of the plans, now again, this deployment here was of the NFA core plan. But if you'd like to see visually what that looks like, or you'd like to provide your customer a diagram, you can click here, and it just shows you a quick diagram of what this actual deployment looks like in terms of infrastructure and configuration. Along the side here, it's pretty standard setup and configuration options. Really the point here is to make sure that you're aware that it all exists. That includes onboarding. You can onboard additional domains. You can onboard additional users, and I don't believe I mentioned it, but you can do bulk adds of users as well, users and groups, as well as policies and things like that. Okay, so that was Nerdio. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple product to use. Obviously, you need to know a little bit about this industry, so this isn't for someone who's coming in completely cold. But hopefully that quick demo that we did there really exemplified or really emphasized where I think they're strongest, which is going to be that initial call. So using the actual cost estimator to get an actual estimate and a quote for your customer, as well as the configuration and migration and ultimately deployment of these systems. Whereas CloudCheckr comes in just after that moment of deployment. As I mentioned at the top of the video here, that these three vendors really do complement one another. I think no more so than with Nerdio and CloudCheckr. As I said, Nerdio is going to be that sort of pre-deployment sort of phase. CloudCheckr then is for established Azure and AWS and Google, for that matter, virtual environments that you want to optimize, both from a technical aspect as well as a business aspect. You want to be able to, with the dynamic nature of this industry, to be able to adjust these systems on the fly so that you are providing your customer with the best performance possible at the same time that you're making the most money for this deployment. And that is really, really where CloudCheckr comes into play. It boasts a number of ways to do this. I'm not going to go through all of it. Let me just show you a very brief demo. Like I mentioned before, they started with AWS. That's really where CloudCheckr shines. They have a number of what they call fix-it-now options with AWS. So this is direct API connections that CloudCheckr has with AWS that allows you to perform tasks that it is recommending you do by simply just clicking one button. The reason I'm bringing that up, even though that's only available right now for AWS, is because we're told that that functionality is coming with Azure, so expect that in the near future. And what I'm specifically referring to, if I show you a sample account here, I'm going to select this one here. The initial screen that's going to come up is sort of a dashboard. It's going to give you a monthly summary of all of their usage over the course of that month. It'll do so with numbers and graphs and everything else that you need to know. In addition, though, you have this section here, Best Practices. Best Practices is just exactly what it sounds like. It's going to analyze your current infrastructure, your current environment, and it's going to make suggestions according to its best practices. Now, this is the section where if we were working with AWS, you'd see a lot of fix-it-now buttons. So, two application gateways using an unsecured protocol. Potentially, you'd be able to click, and it's done, and it fixes itself. Alternatively, unfortunately, with Azure as we speak right now, you would have to barrel a little further into this to find out how to fix it. It will give you instruction in order to do so, but then you'd have to do that manually. Still, the process is here to allow you to optimize your environment. Now, this is from a more of a performance and technical perspective. The other flip side of this is to make sure that you're also cost optimizing as well. And for that, it can be done here with your cost savings tab. This is essentially going to look through the same environment. It's going to find any places where you could potentially save money and make those suggestions. As you can see here in this particular deployment, it has 4 virtual machines that are idle. So if they're not being used, you could simply shut them down. You don't have to delete them, but you could simply shut them down and you could save $43, $45 a month. Unused resources is then, as you can see, even further than that, deallocated virtual machines and unattached managed disks. Especially unattached managed disks, there's absolutely no use for those until they're attached, and you don't want that to continue to soak up that monthly usage. So that's CloudCheckr in a nutshell. There are a lot of other functions that you can do here with CloudCheckr. I don't have the time to go through it all right now, but I absolutely encourage you to ask questions. Hopefully I showed you enough here to kind of get started, and you can take a look at some of these screens as I bring them up on the screen here. And then if you have any questions, hopefully we'll have someone here in the Q&A that can answer them once we get to that. Finally, I want to talk to you about ReadyNetworks. So I feel ReadyNetworks does a great job at sort of wrapping all of that together. So the first two that we mentioned with Nerdio and CloudCheckr, these are platforms. This is a software license that you would get access to and you use to help simplify these deployments. But the reality is, as far as true best practices concerning deployments, machine sizing and configurations, a lot of this is going to simply just require training and know-how. This is going to require experience and reflection on that experience to come up with the best practices. Of course, that can't necessarily be asked of every one of you as soon as you try to place your first order and try to manage your first virtual environment. So That brings us to our third option, ReadyNetworks. And I'm really excited to talk to you about them. What they are is they are going to be a support group for you. They're going to help to facilitate, and when I say help, it can go as far as you can contract them to do all of this work for you. So I absolutely know that there are certain customers out there, you may be one of them just now listening, that really you have no interest in completely tackling this side of the business yourself. You clearly can see the writings on the wall that this is something that you need to get into. This is an industry that needs to be tapped. But as far as personnel costs and training costs, it's just something that's just not going to happen to the extent of where you could be referred to as an expert. That is where you can hire and contract our partners at ReadyNetworks. They have a straight, flat hourly rate for all the pre-migration or pre-deployment, if you will, pre-deployment costs and configurations, and all the post-deployment and configurations. The two different rates, essentially, is all it is. We would connect you with ReadyNetworks at a certain hourly rate based off of your partnership with D&H, and they will help you and they will contract for you the ability to do just about anything in Azure or AWS or Google. Obviously, here at D&H, we definitely recommend that you stick with Azure. There's very little advantage of going with the competition, but the truth is the truth. They are experts at the cloud of all angles, and they will provide you with advice and specific, actual hands-on work for each of those deployments if that's something that you're looking to do. But what exactly will they do? Everything. Everything from cloud migration planning. So if you need to, let's even take a step back from that. They will actually help you with a risk license that they use themselves to perform an assessment of your customer's environment. They will actually help you do that. They'll then take that assessment and they can help you to develop a cloud planning strategy as well, an actual deployment schedule and everything else under the sun. Then once you're actually ready to go, they will help you with that actual deployment to verify that everything has worked, and so on. Essentially, soup to nuts. Ultimately, they will even help you with some more advanced sort of cloud development that is something that I'm not even personally familiar with, and I'm referring to app development. So if you actually have a customer who is interested in developing some sort of web app or even a line of business applications, a lot of that functionality is available to you right now in Azure, but it obviously does require a certain level of programming knowledge or simply just software design knowledge. You can leverage ReadyNetworks for that service as well. So we're sincerely excited to have these guys partnered with us. I really believe that they help to kind of round out the entire fray, and it helps to, I hope, alleviate some of the anxiety and timidness that our customer base has in really addressing some of this, because ultimately, and if it hasn't occurred to you, that they could be a learning tool. There's no reason at all why you couldn't hire their services and then stay on the line and pay attention to everything that they're doing and ask them questions along the way, and this could provide you the knowledge that you need in order to deploy it yourself the next time. So with that said, that is our triumvirate of new IaaS vendors. I am very pleased to go over them more with you and to talk with you individually about them if you have any questions down the line. If you do have any questions right now, as always, we're going to follow this straight up with our live Q&A. So please stick around for that, and hopefully we can answer all of your questions in a timely manner. And that's all I have for you. So I'm going to wrap it up. Until next time, everyone, you have a great day.